Hello there, gentle soul. Tonight, let's take a quiet walk into the heart of a forest, where the stars watch over us, and even the trees listen softly. This is not just any bedtime tale. It's a story about courage, but not the loud kind, not the kind that shouts or roars. This is the kind of courage that whispers, the kind that lives deep inside you, in the quietest part of your heart, a gentle strength, an inner strength. It's the story of Dalo, a tiny baby deer with big, sparkling eyes, who didn't know he could bring back laughter to a silent forest, until one magical night, when the forest called to him not with words, but with a soft, mysterious giggle. And tonight, maybe, that same quiet strength inside Dalo will remind you of the strength inside you too. So if stories like this help you breathe a little easier, or feel a little braver, you can gently help this little forest grow with a like, a comment, a quiet share, and by subscribing to our channel. It means more than you know. And if you'd like to share where you're listening from, we'd love to know what time it is for you and what your sky looks like tonight. Now, dim the lights, rest your hands, and let the world slow down. Just for a little while, take a soft breath in and a slower breath out. There you go. Let's begin our journey with a brave little deer, a whispering forest, and a heart that learns. Its laughter was there all along. The forest was quiet, so very, very quiet. The moon was full and round, shining gently above the trees. Stars twinkled softly in the sky. Leaves rested on branches without a sound. Even the wind was quiet, like it didn't want to wake anyone. All the animals were asleep, but not Dalo. Dalo was a baby deer with soft brown fur and big, sparkling eyes. He had the kind of eyes that looked at everything with wonder. He liked soft moss, slow butterflies, and the smell of cool rain. And tonight, he couldn't sleep. He felt something in the air, something strange, something waiting, so he tiptoed through the trees, step by step by step. He passed sleepy mushrooms, curled up snails, and tiny glowing bugs. The forest felt old, like it had been quiet for a very long time. Too long, you see. A long time ago, the forest was full of laughter, happy laughter, joyful laughter, laughter that made flowers bloom and stars shine brighter. But then, something happened. A spirit named King Gloom lived deep in the woods. He used to be the guardian of joy. He loved to share laughter with everyone. But one day, no one laughed with him. Not one animal, not one bird, not even the trees. His heart felt heavy. He felt forgotten. And so, he became quiet and sad. He made a big, dark spell that covered the forest like a heavy blanket. All the laughter disappeared. The rainbow tree, which had once glowed with light and love, vanished too. And from that day on, no one laughed again. The forest forgot how until now. Dalo stopped walking. His ears twitched. Did he just hear something? There it was again. It was soft, like a tiny bubble popping. Like a giggle, Dalo blinked. He looked around, he dot. Yes. He heard it again. It was coming from a log. Right there, under some ferns, was an old hollow log. It looked tired and old, but something inside it sounded happy. Dalo stepped closer. Slowly, carefully, he reached out one small hoof and tapped the log. He. Dalo jumped back. His eyes went wide. Was that laughing? He whispered. He tapped it again. He couldn't help it. A little sound slipped out of his mouth. a sound he had never made before. He laughed, just a little one. Quiet, but real. It felt strange, but warm, like sunshine inside his chest. He laughed again. The log giggled back, and he laughed again. For the first time in his life, Dalo was laughing, and it felt wonderful. He rolled on the soft moss, giggling and smiling. The log laughed too, like it was playing a game with him. Even a sleepy butterfly fluttered up and blinked at him. Something was waking up. The forest was listening. Far away, deep beneath the ground, something else heard the laughter too. A cold whisper in the dark. King Gloom stirred. His spell was not broken, but it had cracked. Just a little. Back near the ferns, Dalo sat beside the hollow log. His chest was warm. His eyes were bright. He had never felt so happy before. He looked up at the stars. "I think I found something important," he said softly. And maybe, just maybe, he had, because this was the beginning. The very beginning of a journey that would change everything. Dalo didn't know it yet, but he had just woken up a forgotten magic. A magic that could bring back joy and giggles, and the rainbow tree itself. He curled up beside the log, his eyes growing sleepy now. The log gave one last tiny giggle. He dashed, he dot, and under the soft glow of the moon, the forest whispered and dreamed and remembered laughter. The sun had not yet risen. The sky was a soft grey blue, and the stars were just beginning to yawn. But Dalo was already awake. He sat beside the old hollow log, blinking sleepily, listening. The moss was damp under his little hooves. The leaves above him whispered secrets to the wind. Then he smiled. The log giggled again. Dalo tapped it gently. He. This time, the sound echoed. It bounced through the trees like a skipping stone on water. It sounded deeper, brighter, almost like it was calling. Dalo stood up. "Where are you going?" he whispered softly to the laughter. Of course, the log didn't answer, but the giggle drifted again, this time a little farther off, almost like it wanted him to follow. Dalo looked up at the sky. It was turning pale pink now, like a morning blush. He took a deep breath, tilted his ears toward the sound, and tiptoed into the woods. He didn't know where the laughter came from, but he knew one thing for sure. Laughter was alive, and he wanted to find it. He walked past sleepy flowers and morning dewdrops, past quiet bushes and stones that looked like sleepy faces. Every now and then, he would stop, tap tap on a tree stump, he giggle, or on a mushroom cap, he another echo drifting through the air like a song. Dalo laughed quietly to himself. It felt like playing hide and seek with joy. Sometimes the echo sounded close, sometimes far, sometimes high up in the trees, sometimes under his hooves. He laughed, and it laughed back, but far, far away, deeper than the oldest roots, in a cold, dark place where no light had touched for many, many years. Something else stirred. A crack appeared on a stone wall, and from behind it, a low hum, a breath, a sigh, eyes opened old and grey, but still sharp like ice. King Gloom had woken. He had been sleeping for a long, long time. His dreams had been full of fog and silence. But now, something had changed. A ripple, a tiny glow, a sound he hadn't heard in many, many seasons. Laughter. He sat up, slowly, the dust falling off his heavy cloak. He frowned. "No one laughs here," he growled softly. "Not anymore." He touched the stone floor. It was warm, too warm. A child's joy had made it through his spell. A memory, a crack, a beginning. He stood up, tall and cold. His long fingers curled like smoke. "I see," he said, almost sadly. "So the forest remembers." Then, with one breath, he sent a dark mist drifting into the sky. It curled through the trees. It slipped into shadows. It carried no sound, only a whisper, no more laughter. But back in the forest, Dalo knew nothing of this. He was smiling. He tapped a tree with his nose. The giggle echoed again, this time twirling around a branch like it was teasing him. He chased after it. Giggling more, he tripped over a root and landed in a patch of soft moss. He blinked, then he laughed out loud. "Okay," he called out. "I'm coming. Where are you hiding?" The wind picked up gently. Leaves danced above his head. The giggle came again, floating farther now, toward a small hill covered in bluebells. Dalo followed. He didn't know that something cold had entered the woods. He didn't know that eyes were watching from the shadows. He only knew he was not alone. Something had started, and deep in his heart, Dalo felt it. A spark, like the very first firefly in spring. Tiny, glowing, hopeful. He didn't know yet what a laughseed was. He didn't know about the rainbow tree or the friends he'd soon meet. But as he climbed the hill and looked out over the waking forest, he whispered softly, "I think laughter lives somewhere out there, and I'm going to find it." The wind brushed his cheek like a gentle hand, and from behind a tree he hit me. The giggle answered, and the journey began. The morning sun peeked over the trees. Its light was soft and golden, like honey dripping through the leaves. Birds rustled in the branches, still quiet. But not as quiet as before. Something in the forest was changing. Dalo stepped carefully through the ferns, ears up, eyes wide. The giggles had faded again, but he didn't feel alone. There was a hum in the air now, like the trees were whispering something they almost remembered. He tiptoed into a clearing filled with wild mushrooms, and there, curled up in a little ball under a fern, was a hedgehog, tiny, round, shaking just a little. Dalo stepped closer. "Hello," he whispered kindly. The hedgehog squeaked and covered his eyes with his tiny paws. "Oh no," the little hedgehog said. "Not another dream. I told my dreams to stop bringing visitors." Dalo tilted his head. "You're not dreaming. I'm real. My name is Dalo." The hedgehog peeked one eye open. "You are?" Dalo smiled and nodded. "What's your name?" The hedgehog sniffled a bit and uncurled slowly. His nose twitched. "I'm Henry. I don't like surprises, or adventures, or talking logs, or strange new sounds, or funny feelings in my tummy." Dalo giggled. Henry gasped. Was that a laugh? Dalo nodded proudly. "I heard a giggle last night, from a log, so I followed it. I think laughter is coming back." Henry's eyes went wide. "Oh no, oh dear, oh feathers and fluff, that can't be good." "Why not?" Dalo asked gently. Henry glanced around, then whispered, "Because that's how the trouble started. A long time ago." Dalo sat beside him in the moss. "What happened?" Henry took a shaky breath. "Well, the forest used to laugh, all the time. There were tickle vines and giggle ponds and chuckle trees, and in the middle of it all was the rainbow tree. It glowed and sparkled and shimmered like moonlight in a puddle. It made everything feel light and happy." Henry looked down sadly. "But one day, King Gloom came. He was lonely, and he didn't know how to laugh anymore. He thought everyone was laughing at him instead of with him, so he took the joy away. He buried the rainbow tree. He made sure no one laughed again. Henry sniffed, and we all forgot how, even me. Dalo's eyes were wide and shiny. "But I laughed just now," he said quietly. "And so did you, just a little." Henry blinked. "I what? You laughed when I said your dreams bring visitors." Henry scrunched his nose. "I did not. You did." Henry tried to frown, but it didn't work. His lips wobbled, and then he laughed again. A real, tiny laugh, he. Suddenly, a soft yellow glow appeared on his back. Dalo gasped, "Henry, you're glowing." Henry spun in a tiny circle. Am I on fire? I knew this would happen." No, Dalo said gently. "Look." The glow was warm and round like a tiny sun. It shimmered and spun, and inside it something moved. A swirl of golden lines began to rise, floating above Henry's back like magic. A map made of light. It showed mountains, streams, trees, and right at the center, shape like a heart. Inside that heart was a tiny glowing seed. Dalo stared, Henry stared too, but he also trembled a little. "What is it?" he whispered. "I don't know," Dalo said softly, "but it feels special." As they watched, the glowing seed floated down gently, landing in Dalo's hoof. It was round, golden, and warm. "The first laugh, seed," Dalo smiled, eyes wide. This must be what we need to bring the rainbow tree back." Henry blinked. "Is it dangerous?" "No," Dalo whispered. "It's happy." The forest around them rustled softly, as if it was sighing in relief. Somewhere in the shadows, far away, King Gloom felt the warmth. He narrowed his eyes, a seed of joy. "Found," he whispered. The clouds above darkened just a little, but in the clearing, Dalo held the Laughseed close. He looked at Henry and smiled. "Do you want to come with me?" Henry hesitated. Then he looked at the glowing map, then at Dalo, then down at his little paws, and nodded. "Okay, but no running, and no loud surprises. And if we see anything scary, I'll hide in a bush." Dalo laughed. Henry smiled. Just a little. Together, they stepped into the trees, following the next. Lo, on the map, the journey had truly begun. The forest was warm with light. Birdsong drifted gently through the leaves, and the path sparkled with dewdrops. Dalo and Henry walked side by side, following the glowing lines of the magical map that floated above Henry's back. They didn't speak much, but their hearts were full of wonder and questions. The golden seed tucked gently in Dalo's pouch shimmered quietly. "The first laugh seed, what do we do with it?" Henry asked at last, carefully stepping over a sleepy root. "I don't know yet," Dalo said softly, "but I think we're meant to find more." The map agreed. It glowed brighter, guiding them toward a gentle sound, a soft bubbling, like someone blowing kisses underwater. They followed it until the trees opened up into a sunny glade, and there was a sparkling stream. It danced over stones and around mossy logs, bubbling and humming like it had its own secret song. And right in the middle of it, on a wide flat stone, was a frog. A very round, very green, very cheerful looking frog, with a tiny crown made of lily petals, and he was dancing. Oh, what a dance it was. He wiggled, he hopped, he spun around and splashed in the river, giggled. "Do you see that?" Dalo whispered. Henry ducked behind a fern. "That frog is doing something very suspicious." Frogs do not usually twirl. Dalo stepped closer. The frog spotted him, did a final spin, and stopped with a silly bow. Aha, an audience. The frog grinned. Freddy's the name. Dancing's the game. You two look like travelers. Dalo giggled. We're not, Henry muttered from behind the fern. I'm a hedgehog. I don't travel. I panic in new places. Freddy laughed. It was big and bold and bouncy like bubbles popping in the sky. Dalo's eyes sparkled. We found something, he said, pulling out the Laughseed. Freddy's eyes widened. Oh, a Laughseed, my word. You really did find one. He placed a wet hand on his chest. Do you know what it is? Dalo asked. Freddy nodded. Hopping down from his rock, he splashed gently through the shallow stream until he stood right in front of them. No more than just silly steps and spin-arounds, my dear friend, he said with a wink. I know stories, old ones, true ones. He looked around. Not many creatures remember, but the stream remembers. The moss remembers. I remember. Henry peeked out. Remember what? Freddy leaned in. His voice dropped to a whisper. Story of the rainbow tree? Dalo held his breath. Freddy sat down, cross-legged on a lily pad, and began. Long ago, before King Gloom's heart grew heavy, there was a tree in the heart of the forest. Not just any tree, it was the rainbow tree. Tall as the sky, glowing with every color you can dream of. It sang with joy. It shared laughter with the wind, the flowers, even the rivers. Freddy splashed a little with his foot, and the stream giggled. But when Gloom's sadness spread, he cursed the tree. Its light faded, its roots curled in, and, before it vanished, it sent out a final laugh, so powerful it broke into 7 golden seeds and scattered them across the forest. Dalo clutched the seed in his hoof. Freddy nodded. 7 Laughseeds, he said softly. Only when all 7 are found and brought to the place where the tree once stood, can the rainbow tree return. Dalo's eyes were wide. Henry was speechless. So we really are on a quest, the hedgehog whispered. Like, a real one, Freddy confirmed. Then he grinned. But it can't all be serious. Laughter doesn't like heavy boots. You've got to smile your way there. He jumped to his feet, which means it's time to laugh. Before Henry could protest, Freddy grabbed his tiny paw and spun him in a gentle circle. Dalo giggled and joined in. They danced, they splashed, they twirled through the stream. Like leaves in the wind, Henry bumped into a lily pad and fell backward. With a plop, Dalo laughed, Freddy laughed. Henry tried not to, but then he burst into giggles too. And as the laughter rose into the air, the stream began to glow. Light shimmered across the water. Ripples sparkled with color. And then from deep below something floated upward, a small, round, golden stone. It rose, slowly, gently, until it hovered in the air. A second Laughseed. Freddy held out his hands and caught it. He placed it in Dalo's hoof, his eyes shining. That's number 2, he said softly. Dalo felt the warmth of it, glowing against the other seed. Henry blinked. How many more? 5, Freddy said. 7 in all. When you find the last one, the mat will guide you to the rainbow tree. Dalo nodded slowly. His heart felt full of something bright. Thank you, Freddy. Freddy bowed. May your giggles be plenty and your sneezes be few. Henry sneezed. Freddy grinned. See, it's working already. The 3 laughed together again, and somewhere far away, in a cave of shadows, King Gloom felt the second glow. He narrowed his eyes, and the wind grew colder. But in the heart of the forest, by the dancing stream, 3 new friends laughed under the light. The quest continued. The forest was growing brighter, not loud, not fast, just brighter. Dalo stepped carefully along the soft moss path. Beside him, Henry waddled with little careful steps, still blinking from all the dancing and giggling they'd just done with. Freddy the frog, 2 Laughseeds now glowed gently in Dalo's little satchel, and the map above Henry's back shimmered with new light, guiding them deeper into the forest. "Where are we going now?" Henry asked, yawning a little. "I don't know," Dalo said softly, "but the map says we're close." Just then, a soft yellow light floated past Dalo's nose. A firefly, then another, and another. Dozens of glowing little fireflies floated in front of them, blinking like sleepy stars. They moved together, dancing like they were playing a quiet game in the dark. Dalo smiled. "Let's follow them," Henry sighed. "Fireflies are harmless, right? Not the biting kind. They're just lights," Dalo whispered with a smile. "Happy lights." The fireflies led them through tall grass and past old tree stumps wrapped in vines. The forest around them became strangely still and very tall. That's when Dalo noticed something strange. The trees here hum very softly, like music just out of reach. The leaves shimmered gently overhead, and every few moments, a single golden leaf would fall, spinning through the air like a dancer. When one touched Dalo's ear, he let out a surprised little giggle. Henry turned. "What was that?" Dalo blinked. "That leaf, it tickled me." Henry narrowed his eyes. "Leaves aren't supposed to tickle. That's suspicious." But then, a leaf fell on Henry's nose. He blinked once, twice, then Henry laughed without meaning to. Another leaf floated down, brushing Dalo's cheek. They both burst into giggles. The trees rustled above them. The humming grew louder, and then something wonderful happened. The branches began to shake, not from wind, but from laughter, real laughter. The trees were giggling, low and slow at first, like they were trying to remember how. Then fuller, deeper, happier. The whole forest around them was alive with laughter. Henry looked around in wonder. "Dalo, do you think they remember?" "I think so," Dalo said, looking up. And just then, the ground rumbled beneath their feet. "Whoa!" Henry cried, hopping backward. Right in front of them, the roots of a great tree began to move. They slowly opened like a big wooden hand, and in the center of the mossy palm was a glowing golden seed. A Laughseed, the 3rd one. Dalo stepped forward gently, eyes wide with awe. He reached out and picked it up, warm, softly glowing. It pulsed with joy. As soon as he held it close, the leaves above them swirled down in a soft flurry, wrapping them in a quiet rain of color. The trees gave one last chuckle. "Thank you," Dalo whispered to the tree. And just for a moment, he thought he heard something. A voice in the rustling branches. "You brought it back." Henry sniffled quietly. Dalo looked at him. "Are you okay?" Henry wiped his eyes. "I'm not crying. The leaves just got into my feelings." Dalo smiled gently. Together, they stepped back onto the path, the map above Henry glowing even brighter. Now, 3 Laughseeds, 3 sparks of joy returned to the world, far away beyond the trees, deep inside his shadowy cave. King Gloom felt the 3rd light awaken. He stood slowly, and the smile on his face was not a happy one. But Dalo didn't know that yet. All he knew was that something forgotten had begun to return. and the forest was laughing again. The sky had turned a soft gold. Evening was arriving quietly, like a shy guest tiptoeing through the treetops. Dalo and Henry walked carefully up a steep, winding hill. The path was lined with tall ferns that tickled their fur and quills as they passed. Each step felt a little heavier, but the glow of the map above Henry still pulsed, guiding them forward. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Henry asked, puffing a little. Dalo nodded. "The map keeps pointing here." They reached the top of the hill and stopped. Before them stood a tall, crooked tower made of smooth stone and tangled vines. At the very top hung an old bell, but it didn't move. Not a single sound. "Is that it?" Henry whispered. "That must be the bell." Just then, a grumbly voice called out from the shadows. "Stop right there." Out popped a tiny squirrel, in a wrinkled vest, holding a long stick like it was a sword. He looked very serious. His whiskers twitched with suspicion. No laughing, no shouting, no playing near the bell. He huffed. "Joy is dangerous." Dalo blinked. "Dangerous, of course," the squirrel snapped. "That bell hasn't rung in years." "Not since." The laughter was taken. "I'm Mr. Bristle, and I'm in charge of keeping the bell quiet. It's the only way to keep the forest safe." Henry leaned close to Dalo. He seemed tightly wound. Mr. Bristle narrowed his eyes. "I heard that." Dalo stepped forward kindly. "We're not here to break anything," he said softly. "We're looking for something special, something that helps bring laughter back." Mr. Bristle's eyes widened. "Laughter," he muttered. "That old nonsense." He crossed his arms and turned his back. "I used to laugh, long ago, but it only brought trouble. When the forest cried, the bell rang, and the rainbow tree vanished. I swore to keep it silent forever." He pointed firmly at the bell. No joy, no giggles, no laughter. Dalo looked up at the bell again. It hung so still, so silent. It seemed to be sleeping. "But what if it wants to wake up?" Dalo whispered. "I said no," Mr. Bristle snapped. "Now, off you go." Henry frowned. "Well, that's just..." But before he could finish, Mr. Bristle turned too quickly and stepped on a loose stone. His feet slipped, his tail poofed, and he spun like a fluffy top. Whoa. He tumbled backward and landed right into a soft bush. There was a moment of silence. Then hee. Huh. It was Mr. Bristle, laughing. He tried to stop. He really did. But the sound came bubbling out like a hiccup, like something he had forgotten. He still knew how to do. He laughed harder, and as he did, the bell above the tower began to glow. A soft hum filled the air. Then, ding, the bell rang. A rich, joyful sound that rolled down the hill like warm thunder. The trees rustled. The ferns swayed. And Dalo's eyes filled with wonder. Inside the bell, something shimmered. Slowly, gently, the bell opened like a flower, and floating down through the air came a golden glow. The fourth Laughseed, it landed softly in Dalo's hoof. Mr. Bristle stood up, brushing leaves from his fur. He blinked at the bell, then at Dalo, then at Henry. "Well," he said slowly, "that was unexpected." He looked down, a little sheepish. "I forgot how good it feels to laugh." Dalo smiled gently. "Laughter isn't dangerous. It's what helps us grow strong inside." Mr. Bristle sniffled, just a little, then nodded. "Take the seed," he said, "and bring the joy back. The forest needs it more than ever." Dalo tucked the seed into his pouch. For Laughseeds, the map glowed brighter than ever. lighting the sky with soft golden threads. The wind blew gently, ringing the bell one more time, far, far away in the dark places where King Gloom stirred. Another light woke him. He growled quietly, but high on Fern Hill Tower. Under the sleepy stars, the forest had remembered something it thought it had lost forever. Laughter, and it was only the beginning. Night had fully arrived. The forest was quiet now, the kind of quiet that feels like a secret waiting to be told. Dalo, Henry, and the newly cheerful Mr. Bristle walked softly beneath trees that whispered lullabies with their leaves above them. The glowing map pulsed gently, pointing them deeper, toward the fog. The air grew cooler. Mist curled around their ankles like sleepy clouds, and the path ahead faded into silver shadows. Henry shivered a little. Fog gives me the creeps. Smiled. It feels calm, like the forest is breathing. Mr. Bristle squinted ahead. This is the foggy glade. Not many creatures come here anymore. Why not? Dalo asked. Because of Ollie. Ollie. Mr. Bristle nodded. An old owl, very old, very wise, very quiet. They stepped through the mist. Tall, twisted trees surrounded the clearing, and in the very center stood a single stone stump covered in soft moss. On top of it sat an owl. He looked like a bundle of feathers with enormous closed eyes. His wings were tucked in tightly, and his head was slightly bowed. He didn't move as they approached. "That's Ali," whispered Mr. Bristle. "He hasn't spoken in years." Dalo stepped forward, his voice gentle. "Hello." The owl didn't answer. Henry tried to. "We're looking for a Laughseed. Have you seen one?" Still, no response. The fog curled closer, and for a moment it felt like time had stopped. Then Dalo noticed something. Around Ali's feet were tiny carvings, softly into the stone, musical notes. "It's a song," Dalo whispered. "These are song marks." Henry peered closer. "You can read them," Dalo nodded slowly. "My mother sang to me with notes like these." He looked up at the silent owl. "I think he used to sing." Mr. Bristle frowned. If he forgot, there's no way to help him remember now. But Dalo smiled. He sat on the moss below Ali and began to hum, a soft, gentle sound, the kind that makes flowers bloom. The tune matched the markings on the stone. Low, slow, peaceful. The fog shimmered around them, then one feather on Ali's wing twitched. Dalo kept humming. Ali opened one eye, then both, very slowly. The owl looked down at Dalo and blinked. He opened his beak, and softly, so softly, could almost be mistaken for wind. He sang the next note. Dalo smiled wider. Henry gasped. Ali's voice was deep and warm, like a blanket wrapped in moonlight. He sang the next part, and then the next dot, until the whole song filled the glade. Like glowing mist, when the final note floated into the air, there was a pause. Then Ollie chuckled. Just once, a soft, scratchy laugh, like an old door opening after a long time. And in that moment, from the sky above, through the mist, a single golden leaf drifted down. It sparkled as it spun, and when it touched the stone, it turned into a glowing seed. The fifth Laughseed picked it up, his heart full of warmth. "Thank you, Ollie," he whispered. The owl looked down with shining eyes. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Henry blinked quickly. "Is it dusty in here?" Mr. Bristle sniffled. "Very dusty." Dalo tucked the seed gently into his pouch. 5 Laughseeds. The map above Henry pulsed like a heartbeat, and far away, deep in the cold places, King Gloom felt the fifth seed awaken. His frown deepened, his cloak darkened, and he whispered into the wind, "Not yet." They must not reach the tree. But back in the glade, beneath the quiet stars, an owl remembered a song, and laughter rose like fog into the night. That night, the sky was different. Dalo lay curled under a blanket of moss beside a sleepy log, his soft brown fur a warm mound against the cool earth. The air, usually thick with the damp scent of the foggy glade, had cleared, leaving behind a crisp, clean breath that smelled of pine needles and distant, dewy flowers. He could hear the gentle chirping of crickets, a lullaby that had always soothed him to sleep. Yet tonight, sleep felt far away, replaced by a quiet hum of anticipation in his little deer heart. Henry snored gently nearby, wrapped in fallen leaves. Like a cozy dumpling, his tiny hedgehog quills barely visible beneath the rustling cover. Every now and then, a soft snuffle escaped him, a sound of deep, contented slumber, oblivious to the magic unfolding above. Mr. Bristle leaned against a gnarled root, his usual grumbling replaced by a soft, almost melodic humming of an old lullaby, a tune his grandmother squirrel used to sing. Ollie, the wise old owl, perched above them in the branches, his twilight-colored feathers tipped in shimmering silver, watching with one eye half closed and the other lost in thought, a silent sentinel. Of the night, the fog from the glade had indeed faded, leaving the forest floor visible in the soft moonlight. The stars were out, clear and bright, like scattered diamonds on a dark velvet cloth. But something was happening. Dalo's eyes fluttered open. He blinked at the sky, at first thinking his sleepy eyes were playing tricks on him. But no, it was real. The stars were moving, not all at once, not fast, but slowly, with an ethereal grace, like dancers on a great dark stage. They spun gently, forming swirls and lines, connecting with one another like glowing dots on a magical map, stretching across the vast expanse of the cosmos. A soft groan came from Henry. Pancakes," he mumbled, still half asleep, dreaming of his favorite breakfast. Dalo nudged him gently with his nose. "Look," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. Slowly, one by one, everyone looked up. Even Ali, who usually kept one eye on the mysteries of the forest floor, opened both of his glowing amber eyes, fixed on the celestial display. There, above them, the stars stretched and curved, creating a glowing silver path across the sky. It wasn't a path of solid light, but rather a shimmering trail of connected starlight, a cosmic river flowing through the heavens. It led through the woods, over the distant hills, and then, unmistakably, it dipped down, toward a misty place far away, a place shrouded in an ancient, sorrowful aura. Mr. Bristle shivered, his whiskers twitching. "The Moonlight Marsh," he whispered, his voice barely audible. A place spoken of only in hushed tones. A place where even the bravest animals rarely ventured. Henry, now fully awake, blinked, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and recognition. "The last place laughter touched," he murmured, the words heavy with forgotten sadness. He remembered the old stories, the ones whispered by the elders, of how the last echoes of joy had faded into the marsh's perpetual mist. Ali spoke softly, his voice like warm wind rustling through ancient leaves, carrying the weight of centuries. It was where the spell finally reached. The last giggle, the last smile, ended there. His words painted a picture of a profound silence, a void where joy once thrived. The forest fell quiet. Even the bugs stopped buzzing, as if holding their breath, listening to the echoes of a long-lost past. The air grew heavy with the weight of that memory, a collective sorrow that settled around them. Dalo stood slowly, his small hooves firm on the moss. His heart, usually so light, now felt a deep pull, a sense of destiny. "I think the next Laughseed is there," he said, his voice soft but resolute. Henry rubbed his eyes, still trying to shake off the remnants of his pancake dream, and the sudden chill of the marsh's reputation. "Are you sure?" he asked, a tremor in his voice. "I can feel it," Dalo said, placing a hoof over his heart, where the warmth of the 5 collected Laughseeds pulsed gently. "It's calling." It was a quiet, insistent pull, a melody only he could hear, drawing him towards the place where laughter had died. But deep in the woods, far beyond the marsh, in a chamber carved from cold stone and filled with swirling smoke, something else had woken. King Gloom stood in his dark domain, his form a towering shadow. He stared into a glowing mirror, a scrying pool that showed him glimpses of the forest. And in its depths, he saw the little deer and his friends, their faces upturned, looking at the celestial map. His eyes, once filled with a forgotten light, now burned with a cold fury. He clenched his fist, the sound of stone grinding against stone echoing in the silent chamber. "They've found the path," he growled, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the very earth. The warmth of the 5 Laughseeds, now gathered, was a growing irritation, a persistent flicker in his realm of eternal twilight. From the folds of his heavy, shadow-woven cloak, he pulled a handful of dark mist, swirling and coiling like a living thing. He whispered something cold and ancient into it, words of forgotten spells and binding darkness. The mist began to move, obeying his silent command. It shaped itself into creatures, thin and wispy, like fog with glowing, malevolent eyes. They didn't roar, they didn't howl. They were silent, insidious. They whispered as they drifted. Silent shadows made of smoke and fear, designed to sow confusion and lead astray. "Go." King Gloom growled, his voice a chilling command. "Lead them away from the marsh. Let them forget what they're looking for." His plan was subtle. Not direct confrontation, but a gentle misdirection, a soft whisper of doubt and distraction. He knew the power of hope, and he intended to extinguish it quietly, back in the clearing. Oblivious to the creeping danger, Dalo carefully packed the 5 glowing Laughseeds deeper into his satchel. Each one pulsed with a soft, comforting warmth, a tiny beacon against the encroaching chill. "We leave at dawn," he whispered, his voice filled with a quiet determination. The stars above twinkled, as if to say, "Yes, keep going," a silent encouragement, a cosmic blessing on their brave little quest. Henry crawled closer to Dalo's side, seeking comfort. "Do you think the marsh is scary?" he asked, his voice small. "Maybe a little," Dalo admitted, his honesty a gentle comfort. "But we've been scared before." He thought of the grumpy badger, the initially serious squirrel, the silent owl, and even Henry's own initial fears. They had faced them all with a giggle, a song, a shared moment of joy. Mr. Bristle cleared his throat, a small, defiant sound. "And we've laughed anyway," he added, a hint of his old grumpiness, now tinged with a newfound courage. Ali fluffed his feathers, a soft rustle in the quiet night. Then, from high in the tree, he sang one soft note, a single, pure tone that resonated through the clearing, just enough to make everyone feel warm again, a reminder of the joy they had already brought back. They all drifted off to sleep beneath The starlit sky, their dreams filled with shimmering paths and the promise of a rediscovered laughter. But just beyond the edge of the woods, the first of the fog shadows slipped between trees, creeping closer. No growls, no footsteps, just a whisper in the leaves, a sound like forgotten secrets, and a curl of cold mist, chilling the air, waiting for dawn, waiting for their chance to lead the little deer and his friends astray, to ensure the moonlight marsh remained a place of silence forever. The morning was very quiet in the whispering woods. Even the birds sang softly. A thick, swirling mist clung to the trees, making everything look like ghostly shapes. Dalo, with his special Laughseeds faintly glowing in his satchel, stood at the edge of the moonlight marsh. The water was still and dark, reflecting only the coiling fog. This mist wasn't just simple fog. It moved like sleeping dragons, shifting and hiding things. Strange, unclear shapes floated in and out of view, making it hard to tell what was real. "Looks friendly," Henry mumbled. Holding on to Dalo's tail, Mr. Bristle adjusted his tiny acorn helmet. "I don't trust fog. Too floaty, too sneaky." Ollie, perched on a crooked signpost, looked into the distance with sad, golden eyes. "This marsh," he said softly, "was the last place joy was heard, the final giggle. After that, a great, terrible quiet fell over everything." His words felt heavy with old sadness. Dalo nodded, understanding the forest's forgotten pain. But inside him, the warmth of the collected Laughseeds pulsed, a quiet call to be brave. He took a deep breath, and with quiet courage, he stepped forward into the mist. Their little feet and paws made soft splashes on the mossy water paths that led into the marsh. The fog grew thicker with every step, becoming colder, clinging to their fur and feathers like a damp blanket. Soon, they couldn't see the trees behind them. The path home had vanished into a swirling grey world. "Dalo," Henry whispered, his voice shaky. "Where are you?" "I'm right here," Dalo called gently, his voice like a steady anchor in the swirling confusion. "Just follow my voice, little friend. We're together." But something felt very strange. The fog wasn't just hiding things. It was showing things too. Things that played on the deepest hopes in their hearts. Dalo blinked. He saw something. Floating ahead in the mist. A shimmering shape. It looked exactly like his mother, calling his name with a gentle, loving whisper that pulled at his heart. He wanted to run to her, but a tiny voice inside him whispered that she wasn't truly there. Henry suddenly gasped, a sharp, scared sound. "I saw my old burrow. It's not real," he cried, pointing a trembling paw into the mist where, for a moment, his childhood home had appeared. Mr. Bristle gasped too, pointing a shaky claw towards a huge, perfectly ripe acorn. My grandmother's biggest acorn. "It's not possible," he squeaked. Ali's feathers ruffled, his glowing eyes now sharp with old wisdom. "This fog is trickery," he warned, his voice sharper. "It shows what your heart misses most. Do not be fooled." Then came the whispers, sneaky and cold, weaving through the thick fog, soft, cold, like wind through forgotten memories, carrying doubts and fears. "Turn back, laughter is lost. You'll forget who you are. Give up." Dalo's ears twitched, his heart beat faster. He began to feel afraid. A heavy wave of sadness washed over him, making his legs weak. He felt like he should just sit down, or give up, or cry. But then he remembered something. A moment from long ago, when he was just a tiny fawn, clumsy and new. He had tripped, flop, and landed in a pile of soft, sweet-smelling flowers. His mother had laughed so hard, a joyous, happy sound, that she had stumbled and fallen right beside him. And they'd both sat there, covered in petals, giggling and giggling and giggling. It was a perfect, pure memory. Dalo's lips twitched, a tiny smile fighting its way through the fear. Then he giggled. A real, honest, little laugh, soft as a bell, yet wonderfully clear. He, the fog nearest him, rippled, disturbed by the sound. The cold whispers stopped, then pulled back. Henry looked up, his trembling stopping. "Did you just laugh?" he asked, surprised. Dalo nodded slowly, a spark back in his eyes. "I remembered something silly." Henry gulped, then, feeling brave because of Dalo, he thought hard. "Okay, one time, I got stuck in a bucket for a whole day." He started to giggle too, a shaky but real sound. Mr. Bristle, despite not liking the marsh, smirked. "I once mistook a pinnacone for a baby squirrel. Carried it home, tried to feed it nuts all afternoon." The funny thought made a tiny, joyful laugh bubble up from him. They all laughed then. A tiny laugh at first, then a bigger one, a small symphony of gentle happiness that pushed back against the cold, tricky mist. The sound, so forbidden in this place, was a powerful warmth. The fog, unable to stand the warmth of real joy, began to melt, dissolving like sugar in the sun. The cold whispers vanished, silenced by their pure laughter. The scary shadows disappeared, and in the center of the now clear shimmering water, a glowing lily pad, impossibly bright, rose slowly from the surface. Resting on its perfect center was the 6th Laughseed. It pulsed with a soft, inviting light, a beacon of rediscovered joy. Stepped forward, his heart full again, all traces of fear gone. He picked it up. It was warm, golden, soft as moonlight. The fog was completely gone now. Only stars reflected in the water, shimmering points of light on the still surface. Like a second sky mirroring the first dot, Henry looked around, amazed. "We made it. We really made it through." Mr. Bristle exhaled a long breath. "I still don't like marshes," he muttered, but there was a new lightness in his voice. Ali smiled, a rare and gentle curve of his beak. "But you laughed, Mr. Bristle. That matters more than any dislike of floaty things. That matters most of all. 6 Laughseeds, each one a triumph over silence, a beacon of hope against the creeping gloom. Only one more to go, but far away." In the deepest shadows of his cold stone chamber, King Gloom clenched his staff with a rage that shook his dark fortress. The image of the 6 glowing Laughseeds, now strong, burned in his scrying mirror. "They're too close," he growled. The fog shadows, silent whispers of fear, circled around him, awaiting his command. But Dalo, now holding the 6th Laughseed, didn't feel their presence. He only felt the radiant glow of laughter, warm and vibrant in his satchel, and the pull of something beautiful, something profoundly joyful, calling him towards the final spark of joy. The forest grew quiet again, but this quiet felt different, lighter, hopeful. Dalo and his friends walked through a gentle valley blanketed in soft grass and silver dew. The map above Henry glowed brighter than ever, guiding them towards something special. And then they saw it, a wide field stretching farther than they could see, filled with hundreds, maybe thousands, of lanterns. They floated gently in the air, held by invisible strings of light, but none of them were lit. Henry tilted his head. "Are they sleeping?" Ali flew up and landed on a smooth stone near the edge. "These are joy lanterns," he said softly. "They glow when someone nearby feels true joy, not just a smile, but real, heart-deep joy." Mr. Bristle squinted. "Well, I suppose I could try thinking about that time I ate an entire blueberry pie." Henry chuckled. That was a good day. But the lanterns stayed dark. Dalo stepped forward. He closed his eyes. He thought of everything they had done. The trees that giggled, Ali's song, the marsh, Henry's bravery, Mr. Bristle's grumpy laugh, every time they had smiled, and every time they had chosen hope instead of fear. He breathed in slowly. Then, very gently, he laughed. It started small, like a warm hiccup of joy. Then it grew, full of love, full of wonder, a real, deep laugh, and suddenly, pop. One lantern lit up, then another, then 10, then 100. Then the whole sky above them burst into glowing color. Lanterns floating and sparkling, like stars learning how to dance. Henry gasped. Mr. Bristle clapped his paws together. "Would you look at that?" Ollie whispered. "He's done it." The sky shone golden. The field was alive. For a moment, everything felt perfect. But far away, deep in the dark castle of clouds, King Gloom saw the lights, and he was not pleased. He stood at the center of his storm tower and raised his hands to the sky. "The sixth seed has bloomed," he hissed. "Time to bring the storm." The clouds began to swirl. Lightning cracked, winds howled, and black mist poured from the tower, racing across the land like a tidal wave of fear. Back in the field, the lanterns began to sway, then flicker. The wind arrived with a low roar, bending the trees and lifting leaves into the air. Dalo looked up, his heart beating faster. "I think the storm is coming." Henry trembled. "But we didn't do anything wrong." Mr. Bristle grabbed his stick. "Joy scares him. That means we're winning." The lanterns flickered again. A distant rumble rolled across the hills. Ollie called out, "Run!" to the hidden valley. The last seed waits where the shadows break. The wind chased them, fast and wild. Lanterns spun overhead like frightened fireflies. The sky cracked with light. Dalo turned, just for a moment, to look back. The field behind him was still glowing, still filled with lanterns, still full of joy, even in the storm. He smiled, then ran faster, because joy was stronger than fear, and soon they would find the fire. The storm chased them like a big, growly beast with no face. The wind howled so loud through the trees, making a scary sound. Leaves flew all around them like little, frightened birds trying to get away. And the sky rumbled with dark, loud thunder, like a giant drum in the clouds. Dalo ran at the very front, being super brave. He held his little satchel close, and the magic map above Henry glowed brighter, showing them the way. Henry clung close behind Dalo, his tiny paws slipping a bit in the wet mud, but he kept going. Mr. Bristle grumbled with every hop, complaining about the wetness, but he didn't stop either. And Ollie, the wise old owl, soared just above them, his big wings flapping hard, fighting against the strong, pushing wind. Then, crack, a huge old tree crashed down to the ground right behind them. It hit with a mighty thud, and the earth shook under their hooves and feet. It was so scary. "We can't run faster much longer," Henry cried, his voice shaky and small. "There," Ollie called out, circling high above a big, rocky hill. "The Whispering Hollow. It has old tunnels that go deep, deep underground. Dalo nodded, his heart beating fast but full of hope. He knew Ali was always right. Together, they rushed toward the hill, scrambling over stones and slipping through a hidden opening in the side. Just as the storm roared its loudest right above them, the moment they tumbled inside the tunnel, everything changed. The scary noise stopped. The howling wind, the loud thunder, all gone, only silence. A thick, deep silence wrapped around them like a soft, warm blanket. They walked slowly, one poststep at a time. Their little feet made soft, echoing sounds on the smooth stone floor. The air inside was cool and still, like a quiet breath. Along the walls, there were torches, but they weren't lit then. As Dalo and his friends passed by them, the torches sparked to life all by themselves, each flame lighting gently, one by one, as if they were remembering how to glow after a very long sleep. The warm, soft light made the tunnels feel safe and friendly. The tunnels stretched far, far beneath the earth, winding and twisting like the big, deep roots of an old tree. "What is this place?" Henry whispered, his voice small in the quiet. He looked around with wide eyes. Ollie landed gently on a stone ledge, his feathers hushed and soft. "These are the burrows of the quiet badgers," he said, his voice a gentle hum. Long, long ago, this was a place full of happy music and loud, joyful laughter. The badgers here loved to sing and dance. Mr. Bristle looked around, seeing the plain stone walls. "Doesn't sound very musical now," he mumbled, a little sadly. "They were cursed," Ollie continued, his voice growing a little sadder. "When King Gloom first rose, he cast a very bad spell on the badgers. He took away their voices. He took away their laughter. He took away all their joy, leaving only quiet." Henry's ears drooped. "Why did he do that, Ollie?" he asked, a tear almost in his eye. Ollie was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he pointed with his wing carefully to the walls. On the walls, there were pictures carved into the stone. Stories, pictures drawn in soft, glowing lines of silver and gold light. They were old stories from a long, long time ago. Stepped closer, his big eyes looking at the pictures carefully. There, he saw something very strange in one carving. A creature. It had a round face and big, kind eyes, and it was smiling, a wide, happy smile. It looked almost like King Gloom, Dalo whispered, but his voice was full of surprise. Henry blinked. "That can't be right," he cried. "King Gloom is always grumpy and scary." They all looked closer. The carvings showed a whole story. The joyful creature, the one who looked like King Gloom, was dancing with the badgers. He was laughing in the bright light, spreading joy with lanterns and happy songs. He was a good, kind creature. Then the pictures showed dark clouds. The creature was alone. All his friends left him. He felt very lonely, and lonely, lonely, lonely. The joyful creature sat all by himself. His bright, happy light faded, and from his lonely tears came gloom. A big, scary frown replaced his smile. A cloak of shadows grew from the ground and wrapped around him, making him dark and cold. And joy, which he once loved, became something he feared. Henry's voice shook. He wasn't born gloomy, Ollie nodded slowly. He was forgotten, and in that forgetting, he changed. The loneliness made him sad, and the sadness made him angry, and the anger turned him into gloom. The tunnel was silent again, a silence full of sadness, thinking about the lonely creature who became King Gloom. Then, suddenly, a soft, happy hum. Soft, hopeful. They turned. On the far wall, right under a carving of the beautiful rainbow tree, a single stone began to glow. A tiny light, pulsing like a little heart. Dalo reached out his hoof. The stone shifted gently, moving aside like a tiny door, and inside was a seed. It was glowing with soft rainbow light, bright and beautiful. The final laugh seed. Dalo held it gently in his hooves. His heart thumped with joy and sadness for King Gloom, and something new, understanding. He understood why King Gloom was so angry. Henry whispered, his voice full of wonder. Do you think King Gloom could be happy again? I don't know, Dalo said softly, looking at the glowing seed. But maybe he needs to be remembered, not for his gloom, but for who he was before. From deep within the tunnels, a quiet, gentle breeze blew through. And if you listened closely, very, very closely, it almost sounded like tiny, soft, happy laughter. The tunnels had grown deeper now, like a secret path hidden by the earth. They twisted and turned like a forgotten song, their walls lined with soft, gentle roots and old, smooth stones that felt cool to touch. Inside, it was quiet, quiet as sleep. There was no more scary fog, no more shining lanterns from the field, no birds singing, and no whispers in the air. Only the soft sound of their little feet walking, and the warm glow from the 6 special Laughseeds that Dalo carried gently in his little pouch made of fern-string. Dalo walked at the very front of his little group of friends, leading the way. His small hooves made tiny clicking sounds on the stone floor, like a quiet rhythm. His big, sparkling eyes shone bright, reflecting the warm glow of the seeds he carried. Each seed was like a tiny sun that had once lived inside a happy laugh. And now they were resting safely in Dalo's care, waiting. Henry followed very close behind Dalo, breathing carefully, like he was afraid the deep stillness of the tunnel might break if he made too much noise. The little hedgehog had been so brave and had come so far. He had faced big fears, gone through thick fog, seen dancing trees, and run from a huge storm that almost swallowed them whole. Now, he whispered quiet, brave words to himself, like sweet lullabies made of courage to help him keep going. Mr. Bristle, the squirrel, kept his long, thin stick ready. He tapped at shadows on the walls, as if his grumpiness could protect them from anything scary that might be ahead. And Ali, the owl, so wise and quiet, glided just above them on his soft, silent wings. His big, knowing eyes looked at every wall and every dark corner, like he was listening to the old stones themselves. Hearing their secrets, the path walked on until it finally opened up into a big, round room. The ceiling was super high, like a giant, quiet cave carved by time and soft moonlight. The air inside the room was still, but it felt special. It hummed with something very old and very important, like a quiet secret waiting to be found. It felt sacred, like a very special, quiet place. In the very middle of the room stood a single crystal. It was taller than Dalo, shaped like a perfect, giant teardrop made of frozen water. Its hole outside was clear and shiny, and inside it shimmered with soft, changing colors. Light moved slowly inside it, like starlight breathing, gentle, slow, and alive. It felt like the crystal had a heartbeat of its own. This, Ali said in a quiet, special whisper, landing gently on a rock nearby. His feathers barely making a sound is the Laughstone. It is the very heart of all the joy that once lived. In this forest, Henry stepped forward, his eyes wide and shining with wonder. "It's beautiful," he breathed out softly, as if speaking too loudly would break the magic. "Is this where the very last Laughseed is hiding?" Ollie nodded, slowly and seriously. "Yes, but it will only bloom," he said, his voice deep and thoughtful. "If someone laughs, not just when it's easy or happy, but when they are truly, truly afraid." His words drifted across the big, round room like a soft whisper, wrapped in velvet, making everyone very quiet. For a moment, no one moved, no one spoke. The air felt thick with the big challenge Ali had given them. Outside, far, far away, the storm was roaring even louder now. Winds howled above the ground, like wild wolves racing through the trees, making a scary, lonely sound. Somewhere far away, thunder cracked like the sky itself was tearing open, making the ground tremble even here, deep underground. Dalo's ears twitched, hearing the distant storm. He felt the fear pushing against the stone walls, trying to sneak into the quiet chamber like cold air through an old, broken door. It wasn't the kind of fear that made him jump, but a heavy, quiet fear that made his heart feel small. Henry looked at Dalo, his little voice shaking. "Dalo, what if we can't do it? What if we can't laugh when we're scared? What if the stone never blooms?" His eyes were wide with worry. Mr. Bristle muttered, shaking his head. "Maybe we just wait out the storm. Maybe finding 6 seeds is enough. Maybe that's all we can do." Ali shook his head gently. "No," he said kindly but firmly. "The whole forest is waiting. The laughter we've found, it's not just for us, little ones. It must be given back to the heart of the forest. Only then can the darkness truly go away." Dalo took a small step forward, then another, until he stood right in front of the giant crystal. He stared at the crystal, watching the soft, gentle swirl of colors dancing inside it. And inside himself, he felt it, fear. Not the kind that jumps out at you suddenly from behind a bush, but the quiet kind, the heavy kind, the kind that sits on your chest and makes you feel like you're not big enough, or strong enough, or brave enough to do something very hard. It whispered doubts in his mind. But then he remembered. He thought about everything. He remembered the very first giggle from the hollow log, a tiny spark of warmth. He remembered Henry's funny, bouncy laugh when he fell into the mushrooms by accident. He remembered Mr. Bristle ringing the joyful bell, even though he swore he never would, and how happy it made them all. He remembered Ali's beautiful, soaring song that filled them with peace. He remembered the thousands of lanterns lighting the sky, like a million happy eyes. He remembered the scary fog melting away when he thought of a happy memory. He remembered every single moment they chose joy instead of letting fear win. His little heart beat slow and steady now, not fast from fear, but strong with courage. And in that very moment, Dalo knew. He knew what he had to do. He took one quiet breath, then another. He closed his eyes for a second, feeling the warmth of the 6 seeds in his pouch, a reminder of all the laughter they had already saved. And even though the storm outside shook the very world above them, even though he felt scared deep down, he laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't silly. It wasn't a forced laugh. It was gentle, a soft, golden laugh that rose from somewhere deep inside him, from the bravest, truest part of his heart. It was a laugh that said, "I remember who I am, a little deer who can bring joy. I choose to keep going, even when it's hard. I still believe in joy more than anything." The huge crystal shimmered, like water dancing in the sun. Then, all at once, a huge, beautiful light bloomed from deep within it. Colors like morning sunshine, like happy dreams, and like every rainbow petal you could imagine poured from the laughstone, filling the whole chamber with warm, soft light. The room glowed like a happy memory that had just been found, like sweet music returning after a very long silence. And then, from the very top of the sparkling crystal, a seed rose. It was perfectly round, super bright, alive with every color of joy the world had ever known, all mixed into one amazing light. The final laugh seed, the seventh one. Dalo stepped forward with a special feeling of respect and bright hope. As he gently touched it, the seed glowed even brighter in his hooves. And in that very moment, something truly beautiful happened outside, far above them. The storm above them stopped. The wind grew perfectly still. The thunder fell silent. And for the very first time in many, many years, the forest held its breath. Not because it was scared, but because it was filled with wonder. Henry sniffled, wiping his nose with a paw. "We did it," he whispered, his voice full of happy tears. Ali's wise eyes shimmered with a happy light. "The seeds are whole." "Again," he said softly. Mr. Bristle smiled, just a little bit, a rare and true smile that crinkled his eyes. "Now what?" he asked, a tiny bit of his old grumpiness, but mostly wonder. Dalo looked toward the path ahead, the way back out into the world. He knew there was still one more journey left, but this time he wasn't afraid. Not with all 7 Laughseeds glowing and all his friends by his side, far away. In his tower cloaked in darkness, King Gloom felt something strange shift inside him, something warm, something he hadn't felt in a very, very long time. It was a tiny spark, like a forgotten memory, and the shadows all around him began to tremble. The forest felt very different now that Dalo and his friends returned above ground from the quiet tunnels. It wasn't the happy, singing forest they remembered from the start of their journey. Now, the leaves on the trees whispered in uneasy, nervous voices, like they were telling secrets, and the trees themselves seemed to bow their branches low, like big, sleepy giants trying to hide from something scary that they couldn't quite see. All around them, little animals peeked out from behind leafy bushes, from inside cozy burrows in the ground, and from hollow places inside old tree trunks. Their ears were twitching quickly, listening for danger, and their eyes were wide, wide with worry and fear. The forest, which used to be so full of happy sounds, had become a quiet place of silence and scary shadows, where laughter was only a distant, faraway memory, almost forgotten. Dalo's heart felt heavy as he looked all around. He saw the scared faces of the little squirrels and chipmunks. He saw the worried eyes of the bunnies hiding low in the grass. His small hooves barely made a sound on the soft earth as he walked, but every step seemed to echo with the heavy weight of all the quiet sadness around them. It felt like the forest itself was holding its breath. Henry shivered beside Dalo, his little paws clutching the pouch of 7 bright Laughseeds super tightly against his chest, as if to keep their light safe. Mr. Bristle's usual grumble was gone. Instead, there was a tiny, nervous twitch in his whiskers, and his stick was held tight, but he wasn't tapping it playfully. Ali, the wise old owl, circled slowly overhead, his wise eyes scanning the very tops of the trees, looking for any sign of danger, listening to the wind. Suddenly, the sky above them darkened even more, turning a scary grey. And the wind, which had been gently blowing, stopped completely. It was like the whole world held its breath for a very long time. From the swirling dark clouds high above, a figure appeared. It was tall and cloaked in thick, dark shadows, like a bad dream come to life. It was King Gloom. He had awakened fully, and his eyes glowed with a cold, deep light that seemed to pull the very joy right out of the air, making everything feel sad and heavy. He hung there for a moment, big and scary, making the air feel cold. His voice was soft, not loud like thunder, but it was heavy, like a huge storm ready to break right over their heads. "Little dear," he said, and his voice seemed to make the leaves shiver. "You carry the seeds of laughter that threaten my quiet, silent kingdom." He looked at Dalo, and a cold shiver went down Dalo's spine. King Gloom then took a step closer, slowly, and the ground trembled beneath his big, shadowy feet, making the little animals hide even deeper. He made them a big offer, a scary choice. "If you give me the Laughseeds," King Gloom said, his voice like a chilly whisper, "I will stop the storm. The terrible wind will rest, the dark skies will clear, and your forest will be safe once more." He was asking them to give up all the joy they had found just to be safe. Dalo and his friends felt the huge weight of his offer, like a cold, heavy stone pressing on their chests. Fear whispered in their ears, sneaky and cold, telling them to give in, to let go, to just give the seeds to King Gloom and protect themselves. It felt like the easiest way out. Henry looked up at Dalo with trembling eyes, his little voice barely a whisper. "Maybe we should," he said, scared. "Maybe it's too hard to fight him." Mr. Bristle's paws twitched nervously, his eyes darting between Dalo and the scary King Gloom. He was scared too, but Dalo remembered something. A beautiful dream he had long, long ago, even before their big journey began. It was a vision of a tall, tall tree that glowed with every color of the rainbow, its branches full of happy laughter and bright, warm light. That tree was the very heart of the forest, the home of joy itself, waiting to be reborn and shine again. He knew what that tree was. It was the rainbow tree. He took a deep, brave breath, feeling the warmth of the 7 Laughseeds pulsing gently against his chest in the little pouch. They felt strong and alive, and in that quiet moment, with King Gloom looming above and fear all around, Dalo found his courage. It wasn't loud or shouting courage, but quiet, strong courage that came from deep inside him. "No," Dalo said softly, but his voice was firm, not shaky at all. It was a brave little voice. "This forest belongs to laughter, not fear. These seeds are hope, and hope will never be forgotten, not ever again." King Gloom's huge shadow flickered, surprised by the small deer's brave words. He didn't expect such a tiny creature to say no. But the storm clouds above him roared even louder, angry at Dalo's words, and the scary wind began to rise once again, swirling faster and colder. The forest braced itself for a big fight. Dalo looked to his friends, their faces still full of fear, but also full of a new determination, a brave shine in their eyes. They knew what they had to do. Together, they would face the darkness. Together, they would bring back the light, because laughter was stronger than any shadow, stronger than any Storm King Gloom could make. And in the heart of the hiding forest, hope was beginning to bloom once more, quietly but strongly, ready to fight for joy. The wind was wild now, screaming all around the quiet forest like a very angry giant. Thunder rumbled loud in the distance, echoing the stormy feelings deep inside King Gloom's dark heart. Dalo, the little baby deer with big sparkling eyes, stood very, very still. He had just said no to King Gloom, and he felt scared, but also very brave. Deep inside, a soft voice whispered, "Be gentle, be brave, be kind." King Gloom grew bigger and darker when Dalo said no. His shadows swirled like a mini-storm around him, and his voice got heavier, like big, dark clouds ready to burst. "You choose darkness then, little deer," he boomed, and the ground trembled. "If joy will not die, then the forest will drown in shadows forever." He reached out a huge, dark hand, trying to grab Dalo and the precious Laughseeds, but Dalo stood firm, clutching the pouch tight. He looked at King Gloom, not with anger, but with something else. He remembered the old pictures in the tunnel, a happy King Gloom, forgotten and sad. And then, with all the quiet courage he could find in his brave little heart, Dalo let out a gentle laugh. It wasn't loud or bouncy. It wasn't a roar or a shout. It was soft and warm, like the first sleepy light of dawn slowly spilling through a window. It was a laugh full of kindness, full of love, full of everything good and bright that lived inside him. It was a laugh that hugged the air, reaching out to King Gloom. The sound rippled out through the forest, touching every leaf, every branch, every frightened little creature hiding. But mostly, it touched King Gloom around him. The shadows that clung to King Gloom began to tremble and flicker. The dark mist that wrapped around the shadowy king didn't just loosen. It started to pull away, like a blanket being gently removed. Then, something amazing happened. King Gloom gasped. His fierce, cold eyes, which had glowed with anger, softened. They looked confused. Then, slowly, almost painfully, they filled with tears. Not tears of gloom, but tears of deep, sad remembering. His heavy cloak of shadows didn't just fall away. It began to swirl and lift into the sky, revealing a face that was not cruel, but tired, so very tired, and full of a sadness Dalo could feel. King Gloom looked at Dalo, and then at his own shadowy hands, which now looked more like old, worn paws. A shaky whisper came from him. "Laughter, I remember laughter." The truth unfolded, not just for Dalo, but for King Gloom too, like a forgotten page finally turning. King Gloom had not always been a creature of darkness. Long ago, he had been the guardian of joy. His heart had held so much laughter and bright light. He had watched over the forest with a big, happy smile. But time had passed, and the forest animals slowly forgot to laugh. And when they forgot him. Sadness wrapped itself around his spirit like a cold fog. The laughter he once loved, the laughter he used to share, faded away. And with it, his light went out, leaving him alone in the gloom he became. Dalo's gentle laughter continued, a steady, warm sound. And as King Gloom remembered, a tear rolled down his face. The tear wasn't dark. It was bright and shimmering. And where it fell, the ground pulsed with a soft light. King Gloom looked at the light, then at the glowing Laughseeds in Dalo's pouch. He remembered how he used to carry them. A shaky smile, small but real, appeared on his tired face. I was wrong," King Gloom whispered, his voice soft now, like rustling leaves, not like thunder. "I tried to make the silence feel better, but it only made things worse." He looked at Dalo with eyes that were no longer fierce, but asking for help. Can joy truly come back to me?" Dalo, seeing the real King Gloom beneath the shadows, just smiled. He didn't say anything, but his gentle laugh was the answer. And then, King Gloom did something wonderful. He slowly, carefully, raised his old, tired paws, and instead of dark mist, a soft, shimmering light flowed from his fingertips. He wasn't creating gloom anymore. He was helping to push it away. The storm's rage began to soften, like a sleepy giant calming down. The wind's howl turned into a gentle whisper, then stopped completely. Slowly, the heavy, dark clouds parted, pulling away from each other like sleepy blankets. They revealed a sky sprinkled with thousands of twinkling stars, tiny lanterns, glowing with hope and magic, now visible for the first time in so long. From their hiding places, the little animals began to emerge. Little eyes shone in the moonlight, watching with wonder as the forest around them seemed to breathe and awaken. The trees rustled softly, their leaves shimmering with new life, and the air was filled with a soft chorus of happy whispers and tiny happy chirps. King Gloom, no longer dark, watched them with a quiet, peaceful expression. The Laughseeds in Dalo's pouch glowed brighter and brighter, their light weaving together like golden threads, stitching a new tapestry of joy and peace across the forest. Dalo smiled softly, feeling warmth bloom deep inside him. He realized that laughter was not just a sound, but a light. A powerful light that could chase away even the darkest shadows, heal the deepest sadness, and bring life back to the quietest hearts. He also understood that the Laughseeds were more than just seeds. They were the very heart of the forest, alive with hope, courage, and the magic of a single, gentle laugh. And that even someone who was very, very sad and grumpy, like King Gloom, could find their joy again if someone remembered them with kindness. As the first peaceful dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky with soft, happy colors, Dalo knew that this was not the end of their journey, but a new beginning. A promise that laughter and light would always live in their forest, and in their hearts forever. Now with the guardian of joy, King Gloom, by their side once more. The forest was still and quiet, filled with a gentle hush. The night sky above seemed to hold its breath, watching. In Dalo's small hooves, the 7 glowing Laughseeds pulsed with a warm, golden light, like tiny suns, full of hope and pure magic. They hummed softly, ready for their special job. Slowly, as if carried by an invisible soft breeze, the Laughseeds began to lift from Dalo's pouch. They floated gently, one by one, shimmering like tiny stars as they rose higher and higher into the sky. They spun and danced for a moment, painting little arcs of rainbow light in the air above the treetops, above the trees. The seeds sparkled even brighter, like they were saying hello to the real stars. And then, as if guided by the forest's own quiet heartbeat, they drifted softly down, 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 planting themselves deep into the earth. The soil below was thirsty and waiting, ready to welcome them home. Each seed nestled into the soft ground, ready to grow. A deep hush fell over the whole forest. The animals, who had peeked out from their hiding spots, watched with wide, wondering eyes and hopeful hearts. Even the leaves on the trees seemed to hold still, waiting. Then, from the very spot where the Laughseeds had settled, something truly miraculous began to happen. At first, a single tiny green shoot sprouted. It was so small, but it pushed gently and bravely through the dark earth, reaching for the sky. It wasn't just green, it glowed softly. It grew taller and taller, reaching toward the sky with every breath the forest took. It glowed in colors no one had seen in many, many years, colors bright and warm, like the sun's first morning light and the soft, gentle brush of a rainbow across the sky. Branches stretched out from the growing shoot, like welcoming arms opening wide to hug the whole world. Leaves popped open, shimmering with every shade of joy, from shining gold to soft pink, from royal purple to sparkling silver. And there, at the very top, tiny blossoms bloomed. They looked like little stars made of laughter itself, each one twinkling with pure happiness. The rainbow tree had returned. It stood tall and grand, its light spreading slowly but surely through the whole forest. It touched every single leaf, warmed every stone, and bathed every little creature that had once hidden in fear. The darkness and sadness simply melted away under its magic. Laughter bubbled up again like a sweet song carried on the breeze. It was soft at first, shy and gentle, like a forgotten tune slowly returning. But then it grew stronger, like gentle waves rolling across the sea, getting bigger and happier. Soon, the forest was filled with a joy so pure and bright that even the stars in the night sky seemed to sparkle with happiness, joining in the celebration. The forest hummed with warmth and light. Dalo stood beneath the glowing branches of the magnificent rainbow tree, his heart swelling with a quiet pride and a deep, peaceful feeling. He felt so happy to have helped. The animals gathered round, no longer scared, but smiling and laughing together, their spirits lifted high by the tree's magic. King Gloom, no longer dark, walked slowly toward Dalo. His face was soft now, and his eyes, once so cold, held a gentle, knowing light. He looked at Dalo, then at the glowing rainbow tree, and then back at Dalo with a small, grateful smile. He reached out a hand, no longer shadowy, and gently placed it over Dalo's small hoof. "Little dear," King Gloom whispered, his voice like a gentle breeze, "you have done what I could not. You have brought laughter back, not by force, but with the purest kindness. The seeds trusted you. The forest trusts you." He looked deeply into Dalo's eyes. The heart of joy has found its new guardian. In that moment, Dalo understood. He understood what it truly meant to be the guardian of joy. It wasn't just about protecting laughter from disappearing. It was about sharing it, spreading it, and believing in it with all your heart, even when the world seemed dark and scary. It was about kindness and courage and hope. And King Gloom, who had once been lost, was now helping to pass that sacred trust to him. The little baby deer, Dalo, with his big sparkling eyes, had brought light back to the forest. He was small, but his courage and kindness would be remembered forever by every creature in the Whispering Woods. The rainbow tree would stand tall for all time, a living symbol of hope, joy, and the wonderful magic that lives inside every heart, willing to laugh even when they are scared. And so, the forest slept peacefully once again, wrapped in the gentle warmth of laughter and love. Every creature, from the smallest beetle to the tallest tree, was ready to dream sweet, happy dreams. Until morning, knowing joy would always return, with Dalo, the new guardian of joy, watching over it all. The forest is quiet now, but its heart is full of light. Laughter has returned, soft and bright, like the first morning sun after a long night. Little Dalo showed us that even the smallest voice can bring the greatest joy. When we face fear or darkness, a gentle laugh, a kind heart, and the courage to believe in hope can light the way. Joy is a seed we carry inside, ready to bloom whenever we choose to nurture it. So, whenever you feel alone or scared, remember Dalo's journey, the laughter that grew from a single, brave smile, and know that inside you, too, is the power to bring light and happiness to the world. May your dreams be filled with laughter, and may your heart always carry the magic of joy. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends so the magic of laughter can reach even more hearts.